Introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Dave Ritz, and I teach physical education at Stetson Elementary School. This is my 27th year in Falcon School District 49. All but 5 of those years I've been at Stetson Elementary School. Those 5 years I was actually at Remington when my wife, Mrs. Ritz, was the principal at Stetson. So I'm pretty much, been to that school for all those years. I taught 4th and 5th grade for 26 years. And then just last year, I switched over to physical education class. So this is now my second year as the PE teacher.
And what made you want to switch over to physical education?
Well, I've coached, as I was telling you earlier, I've coached basketball every year pretty much that I've been a teacher, all the way from elementary school up to high school. And I figured, I'm in the twilight of my career now. I only have about 4 years left until I can, officially retire. So I thought, let's do something, kind of fun to finish off our career. And I had the PE teacher at Stetson who decided that he was going to change to a different school. So I ended up going back and taking the praxis test for physical education. Not really realizing if I was going to pass it or not, but I did. I passed it, and so I thought, well, hey, the opportunity kind of presented itself, and specials jobs are kind of those diamonds in the rough, and they're gold mines when you get an opportunity to. So with a little bit of a nudge from my wife, I decided I would take that. And so now, like I said, this is my second year of doing it. And so it's been a great experience. The first year last year was tough because, you're in the classroom for 26 years and you have your set ways of doing things. You have your very own kids. And as I mentioned before, I've taught nothing but 4th and 5th grade. So having the littles, the kindergartners, 1st and 2nd graders, was definitely a concern because I, again, had never taught them before. And they kind of scared me, especially those little kindergartners when they came in. But it ended up being a great experience. And now kindergartners and 1st graders are definitely, you shouldn't have favorites, but they are. They're just a really neat group of kids, have a great energy level. So, and again, I still obviously love the intermediate levels as well. But it's just been a really great transition. I've enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. So since you have experience both within the classroom and as a physical education teacher, how have you integrated multiple subjects within your classroom, whether that be PE, incorporating other subjects, or your normal 4th to 5th classroom?
Right. Well, Kathleen, we're here to tell you that I would like to ramble on. So I try to make myself some notes here so I wouldn't ramble on. I know in the regular education classroom, especially in the area of reading, we did a lot of integrating different subject areas, did a lot of different activities related to math and science that obviously incorporated all the different areas that still related to that one specific topic. For instance, when we first started our CKLA reading curriculum about 8 years ago, we had a unit that had a section on personal narratives, and within the personal narratives, there was a story that talked about the rising tide and how the rising tide obviously had something to do with this young woman's feelings about life and everything else. And so basically, we did a lesson on the phases of the moon. So I was actually able to teach the kids the phases of the moon and why the tide rises and why it lowers based upon the position of the moon. So that was really kind of a fun little activity that we did. I know that when we studied Don Quixote in our CKLA units, we did and incorporated mathematics, talking about percentages, talking about numbers that related to different things based upon their topic or based upon their end of the unit assessment, which was actually creating a cereal box book report where they actually had to replicate a cereal box that basically told all about the different parts of the story of Don Quixote, and one of them was the percentage of time that certain characters were actually found in and seen in the story. So it's kind of fun to be able to incorporate math in that way. I know that when we did a unit on Italy, my very first year of teaching, I was able to incorporate geography. I was able to incorporate mathematics. I was able to incorporate foreign language. So again, there are lots of different ways you're able to do that within the classroom. You just have to be creative with it. But the kids really get a sense of an understanding of a specific topic if you're able to make it real to them, and if you're able to bring in different ideas and different subject areas that relate to that particular topic. I know in physical education, one of the things that I kind of prided myself on last year was being able to integrate different physical activities into a lot of the CKLA units that a lot of the teachers just don't have time for. So one of the things last year that we did is I know that second grade was working on animals, and they were working on different types of animals, whether it be amphibians or mammals or whatever. So one of the things that we did is I taught the kids different movements that related to those animals. So the kids were actually having to replicate the different movements of these animals that they're actually learning about in the classroom. So again, it made it real to the kids. Again, the idea of movement got the kids moving around, got the kids excited about being able to see how different animals move, and again, just kind of brought a different taste as to what they're actually looking at in the classroom, in their reading curriculum. But like I said, as a teacher, you're going to find lots of different areas where you can integrate different things, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being a teacher is you can do those things to really reach kids in different ways, because you're going to have some kids who see a specific topic in a different way than other kids do. Maybe they do have a knack for mathematics, and so you bring in a topic related to math, like for instance, say baseball. You bring in math and baseball, and the kids can understand why baseball is a game of mathematics. It's a game that involves averages. It's a game that involves percentages. It's a game that involves lots of different things. So if you're able to do that and reach a student's love for something, it really does give them a better understanding of that topic.
Yeah, that's so important, is to engage with the student and really kind of motivate them to be a leader in their own learning.
Absolutely.
Have you utilized different movement activities to help you teach mathematics when you were 4th or 5th grade, or kind of vice versa, used movement in your PE classes to kind of correlate to math?
Right. When I was reading over your questions, the one thing that really did come to mind was we had a curriculum in math. Oh gosh, I want to say it was about 7 or 8 years ago. It was called Standout Math. And Standout Math was created by a person who actually used to be a former cheerleader, I believe, and she ended up being an elementary school teacher. So she was trying to create chants and movements that allowed kids to be able to understand specific mathematical concepts. So I remember, one of the things that I do remember about Standout Math was, I'm going to do it for you. So even if you're recording this, I hope I don't make a goof of myself. But one of the things that my kids did was when they were trying to find equivalent fractions, they created a chant. And the chant was finding equivalent fractions. What you do to the top, you do to the bottom. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. And so we did that with the kids, and the kids just loved that. And again, I'm not a singer by any means. So obviously it was kind of me coming out of my comfort zone too and doing some of those things for the kids, but it really did make a difference for those kids. I remember watching the kids the first year we taught this curriculum, taking their statewide assessments. And I actually saw kids during the statewide assessments doing some of the movements that we were learning in class. Now, obviously, they weren't saying them out loud. They weren't chanting them out loud. But they remembered those movements, and they remembered things that we were doing in class. And it really did enable them to, be able to, understand it and find the answer to a concept. So Standout Math was definitely one of those that that I think in the classroom really helped. Obviously in PE or even in coaching, I know, in coaching when I'm teaching my kids about doing a bounce pass, I talk to them about, estimating a third of the way to their teammate, and being able to estimate that, and knowing that bounce pass has to go 2/3 of the way to their teammate, and being able to make sure that ball makes it there. Talking about percentages with my kids at Skyview, talking about, at one time there should only be 20% of you within the key at one time. So the kids obviously know, okay, 20%, of that 5 is only one player. So obviously we know that there should only be one player in the key at that specific time. So, there's different ways that you can definitely integrate mathematics, and doing it in a way where obviously the kids are moving and doing things that really enable them to remember a concept. But Standout Math was definitely the one, like I said, that really, stood out for me as something that we really use to integrate movement into mathematics.
Mm-hmm. So with that information, what is your personal opinion on using movement within the classroom to teach math concepts?
Well, it's really important. I mean, you have to be able to, as we talked about earlier, being able to give the kids an opportunity to be able to, understand something. And oftentimes they have to be able to use movements, or they have to be able to use what I would consider to be, not unorthodox, but things that we wouldn't normally do, like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, and I grew up in a Catholic school, and we'd have the nun walking up and down the aisleway and calling off a multiplication fact, and we had to know that 9 times 7 was 63, and if we didn't, oh my gosh, we got in big trouble. Nowadays, kids don't learn that way. So you have to be able to utilize movement. You have to be able to use different things that reach different learners. So I know, like I said, having the kids, get a movement or get an idea as to how something is done, even in PE. I mean, being able to have younger kids, especially being able to use mathematics to help them remember steps or to help them remember, movements in something, how many movements are involved in, throwing a ball underhanded. I mean, being able to use those things, I think, is really important to reach those learners.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe that in either sense of when you were in the 4th or 5th grade classroom, that it really, by using movement, you were not only building those foundational math skills, but also creating skills that would help them in physical education? And now that you're in physical education, vice versa?
You see that, yeah, you do see that connection happening. And I know now that I've been the second grade or the PE teacher for 2 years now, I've seen people like second graders who, come in and they remember things that we did last year in PE class, and we're kind of building on those skills. For instance, teaching the kids how the number of steps involved in being able to throw a ball underhanded and understand the purpose behind balance and the purpose behind weight shifting, things like that. And then now this year, when they're in 3rd grade, being able to, talk to them about, throwing a ball overhanded now. So, we're using the same ideas, but we're kind of switching them up a little bit and giving the kids, the understanding of, okay, there were this many steps when throwing the ball underhanded, now throwing the ball overhanded. So yeah, you see a lot of those correlations happening.
Mm-hmm. And when you did teach mathematics, how did you differentiate the instruction so that way it wasn't more of that typical lecture model?
Right. Well, I know the one thing that we did when I was reading again through your questions, the one thing that we did when we talked about differentiating instruction, especially in math, was not one size fits all. And you're going to have kids coming in, especially when I taught 5th grade, you're going to have some kids who were able to come in and they're able to multiply a 2-digit number by a 3-digit number. You're going to have some kids who can't even add a 2-digit number to a 2-digit number. So one of the things that we did at Stetson when I taught 5th grade for all those years is we actually grouped the kids based upon their ability level. And I know some instructors, even some administrators, they see some detractors with that. But I know, speaking from experience, when we did it, we would have at the beginning of the year, we would have the kids take basically a pre-assessment. When they came in from 4th grade, we would have them take a 5th grade assessment, and we would also take into consideration how they did on their 4th grade math scores, whether it be CMAS or CSAP or TCAP, whatever it was at that period of time, whatever they got on their statewide test scores. And then also we would talk to the individual teachers, and we would talk to them about the needs of these individual students. So basically we would group them in groups of 4. And I'm sorry, in 4 different groups. And so we would have basically an advanced level. We would have 2 on-grade level classroom, and then a remedial level. And we purposely made sure that our advanced level and our remedial level were pretty small in terms of class size. And it was basically those kids who were the advanced level. These are the kids who, scored either an 80% or above on their beginning of the year assessment. And these are the kids who, when they came in, they had scored advanced, either, at the low level, middle level, or even high level on their statewide testing. And then we would take those kids who were in the remedial group, those kids who really struggled, those kids who had a hard time with being able to, do, 5th grade level math problems. And then we have, of course, the 2, on grade level groups. So those groups were actually higher in terms of numbers. I think our advanced level, we capped it maybe about 15 at the most. And for the remedial level, it was about the same. So we wanted to keep those 2 groups pretty small. So that way we can make sure and give the individual attention that we needed. The kids really thrived in that. Now, I know sometimes administrators, even the public, they look at those test scores and they see those scores either going up or going down. So obviously they try to, do whatever is best for kids. But oftentimes, I think we look at those test scores and we think, okay, well, this is the be all end all of the existence. Well, when you see a lot of those kids, especially at the remedial level, let's say, again, they started and we had, some kids who couldn't even add 2 numbers together. Well, by the end of the year, they had gone into, multiplying all the way up into the 9s. Now, again, maybe that's not all the way up to 5th grade level, but look at the amount of growth we saw in those kids. Look at the amount of growth we saw in those students. And we did pride ourselves because Skyview Middle School would always tell us that, our kids from Stetson would always come in and be really, really well prepared when it came to math instruction. So we had usually the most number of kids who would actually go into the advanced math group at Skyview. And we pretty much, prided ourselves on, being able to get those kids ready. And then I know within the last few years of my time in 5th grade, basically it was pretty much mandated that we had to keep the kids in the classroom. So we didn't even get a chance to differentiate like we had done before. So we had to kind of differentiate, even in our classrooms. When you only have 90 minutes, it's really hard to meet with 3 to even 4 different groups within that 90-minute period. So there were times when we started our new math curriculum. It's basically a form of engaged New York math. We had our advanced kids who were excelling, who were doing well, but then our low babies, they were really struggling, and sometimes deer in the headlights look. So that was one of the difficult things, not being able to continue that. And like I said, I know times change and curriculums change, but the students, they have to be, they have to be able to, be given that opportunity to improve. And maybe it might not be, a full grade level or a full year's improvement, but at least if you see improvement, that's the thing that we really prided ourselves on. And again, that self-esteem issue was a huge part. When you had kids again who were really struggling in math, and they were in the same class, some of the stuff that a lot of our higher level kids were, you could see their self-esteem go down quite a bit. And even though we try to differentiate, only being able to differentiate for 15 or 20 minutes is, a lot different than being able to differentiate for 90 minutes at a time. So that was the big struggle that we had. So I hope that made sense, and I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So with that, how did you make it in a more inclusive environment to where like the kids in those groups understood that their comprehension of the content was not a reflection of their self-worth?
Yeah, I think the kids knew. I mean, the kids had an idea, and the kids, I think, especially in our remedial group, they felt comfortable with being in that group. They felt comfortable with knowing that, hey, Mrs. So-and-so is, teaching me, in a way that helps me to understand. Maybe it may not be at the same pace or the same speed as, maybe what they're doing in the next classroom, but at least I'm understanding and getting this. And that's one of the things that, when it comes to inclusivity within the classroom, being able to show those kids that, we're here for you and we're doing what's best for you at this time. And the kids always seem to be really receptive of that. And I think that's one of the things, like I said, that our kids, really showed growth in those areas. Maybe it wasn't the kind of growth that you would hope to see, but at least it was growth, at least it was growth that was measurable based upon where they were before. And again, like I said, the remedial group kids, they really impressed us and showed us that they could rise above that level, which is exactly what we wanted the kids to be able to do. And again, the high level kids, even the on grade level kids, we saw huge growth in those areas. So.
Do you have any other thoughts on movement-based mathematics you'd like to share?
Well, like I said, I think the more you get the kids up and moving, obviously it works, it works twofold. It helps to, get that oxygen level and that blood level flowing, which again, in one way or another helps to regain that focus. I know we have teachers right now at Stetson who, when they're doing a test, or when they're doing an assessment, that when the kids get to, let's say, question number 9, let's say they're taking on a computer, it's in the Google format, they get to question number 9, and the teacher's going to say, hey, I want you to get up and do 25 jumping jacks. So, the kids will get up and they'll do the 25 jumping jacks. They're not disrupting anyone else. The rest of the kids know exactly what's going on. And it really does help kind of get the kids refocused and re-energized to go back and taking the test. And the teachers have seen, when the kids take those little brain breaks, even if they're just a couple of minutes long, they really do enable them to get refocused and do a much better job. So, and again, movement in any way, fashion, or form is just something that's really important for the kids, because again, it gets them out of their seats, it gets them to be, and there are lots of different things you can do as a teacher. There are lots of different groupings you can do activities with them within the classroom where they're up and moving around. I know that when I was teaching 5th grade, and we would do something called a preposition jingle. It's not with math, obviously, it's with grammar, but the kids had to learn the 49 prepositions. And learning this jingle, and the kids being involved with dancing, being involved with doing different movements and chants, it was really great to be able to see, because at the very beginning of the unit I tell the kids, okay, you're gonna have to memorize and know all 49 of these prepositions. And of course you see the kids' faces just drop. They're like, 49 of them. Well, then when we do it in the form of a song or a jingle where there's movement involved, where there's dancing involved, and sometimes the kids actually got to create their own movements, got to create their own chants, they got to create their own little whatever they were doing in a specific section. It enabled those kids to know those 49 prepositions. And I have students coming back from 7th grade and 8th grade, and they'll see me and they'll remember that preposition jingle, and they'll actually be able to do some of the little dances and things with it. So I think movement in the classroom, whether it be in mathematics or other subject areas, is just a really great integration to be able to get the kids focused and just learning in a way that sometimes helps them to learn. Because like I said, when I was a student, it was hard sitting in a classroom in a chair for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. So being able to get that opportunity to move, whether it be, through exercises or brain breaks or, other sorts of things, I think is a really important skill for the kids to be able to have. And it helps them out in life. I mean, I know our secretaries at our school, they have the desks that actually rise up and down, and you'll see those teachers or those the secretaries sometimes sitting in their seats, and sometimes you'll see those desks up. Sometimes it's after lunch, I think, when they're kind of tired out and it's been after lunch and everything. But being able to do that, I mean, obviously the kids can see that even in life, people need those opportunities to have brain breaks and movement to keep themselves focused and moving. So, yep.
And I know this is a little off task, but do you notice when you utilize movement in your curriculum or mathematics, does it help the kids kind of socialize and build that kind of classroom community?
Oh, sure. Yeah. When I was speaking about the preposition jingle, I obviously made the groups up myself. And because if you have the kids partner up, they're always going to partner with the same kid all the time. You're going to have the boys in one group, the girls in one group. So I made sure, and this is pretty much probably September, October of the year. So, many times the kids already built some relationships, but then sometimes there were other kids that maybe they didn't know or hadn't worked with before. So it gives the kids an opportunity to work with people that maybe they haven't worked with before. It gives them that opportunity to be able to, decide, hey, sometimes this might work, sometimes this might not work. So obviously working with people in real life, there's going to be the same thing. You're going to have people who, maybe don't work well together, but they have to in order to complete a certain task. And every time we did this, every time I did the preposition jingle activity, the kids always had such a great time. And, the kids always knew in my classroom that the environment was a risk-free one. No one ever made fun of anybody. No one ever, was going to look down on someone. The kids all knew that they were all a family and they were all, there to complete a certain task together. So it always did seem to work really, really well in doing activities like that. So yeah, I think building those relationships through movement activities is huge. Yep.
Yeah, because that was what my perspective was that having those breaks could really build those relationships, and then building those relationships could really encourage students to kind of collaborate with their peers. So like if you did have, outside of the mathematic time where they were doing the grouping, you could always go to your friend if they're in the advanced group, and they might be able to help you even though you're in the, average group or something like that.
And I've seen as a PE teacher, I see so many instances where kids are really, really good-hearted. And, we have some kids in our classrooms who have cerebral palsy. We have a couple kids who have MS. And so when we're doing different activities in PE class, whether it be doing activities that involve running or crawling or something like that, those kids who have MS or the kids who have CP or whatever else the condition is, sometimes they struggle a little bit, but boy, their classmates are there to either help them or they're there to cheer them on. And, that really says a lot about these kids because, you see kids and you think, 8-year-olds, they don't have that sort of, no, they do. They do have that mentality. Mm-hmm. And to see these kids cheering their classmates on, it's really a wonderful thing. And I think that's the hardest part of being, a teaching in a pandemic like this. Is you don't have that opportunity to do that. You don't have that opportunity to engage with the kids and the kids to engage with you and each other. And that's why when I said earlier about our kids, leaving on Friday and, we had so many of them in tears when they were getting on the bus or going home, they like that. They like that interaction. They like to be able to see their friends and they like to be able to be in a classroom with kids their age and do the things that, that they've been doing the last couple of months. And so, like I said, it's really a great thing to be able to see these kids interact and build those relationships with one another. I mean, you're still going to have your little spats and things like that. But, I think the kids, based upon, how the teacher handles it, the kids handle it really well. We have something that we utilize in our building. It's a social contract, and it comes from the Capturing Kids' Hearts model. And so the kids basically are in charge of basically creating the class rules. They're basically in charge of creating how they want to be treated, how they're going to treat each other, how they want the teacher to be treated, and even how they treat each other during conflict. And so I think, having these kids having this opportunity to be able to create those and be able to live by those rules really does help the kids. It does.
I think that's it for the questions I have. Do you have any questions or additional comments you'd like to say?
No, not at all. But again, if you ever need anything else, don't hesitate to let me know.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a good night. Best of luck to you.
You too.